Okay, I'm set.
Well, welcome to the Backyard Professor videos, live videos. Actually, we're not live. We're pre-recording this live. We'll make this a premiere. I'm here with my friend and co-host, Robert Shipe from Custodian File. How you doing, Robert?
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Professor. I appreciate being here again. Thank you for the invitation. And thank you, all the viewers who are watching. We appreciate it. We're going to try to do the best we can to give you another outstanding show. I am recording this from my bedroom today because I have my camera turned on, pointed at Marina Del Rey, just in case the Army or the Navy flies in. I will take a minute and record the helicopter, the air activity, but it's probably a low activity day, so that probably won't happen. But just want to mention ahead of time what the plan is.
Nice. We'll kill two birds with one stone. We'll get the good Major's information, and you will be able to show us some dragons.
Absolutely.
That would be awesome.
Absolutely. I already got I got a really good video yesterday of some old Navy vintage planes, 1943 coming in. That worked out well. They got tagged, and then we just had I thought it was a little tourism chopper was coming in. He was on the plane finder. I saw him coming in. And then at the last second, he decided to circle the jetty rocks. And as soon as he did, a UAP Dragon came off the ground, went right after him. And I got a video.
I saw that. You sent me a copy of that. That was really cool.
Oh, no, that was yesterday too. That might have been the same guy, actually.
But really? Yeah. So
he came back. He came back 1 hour ago. It made it so obvious when you circle the jetty rocks, you make it very obvious that you're looking for something. It's not tourism. And it's very predictable at that point. This thing came right off the ground, 2,000 miles an hour, and reconned the helicopter. I have the video. I'm having it interpolated right now because it's stellar. It's textbook.
Excellent.
That's a whole other podcast here.
Yeah, so, we'll do more of them too, as far as that goes. So
yes.
Yeah. So with Major George, Major George Filer, he has given us permission to call him George or Major George or Major George Filer. We're all friends here. We mean nothing disrespectful whatsoever in calling him on a first name basis. We are going to he is going to share more of his stories, his understanding, his wisdom and knowledge on the UFOs, and with his boss in particular, Bob Wood, who was extensively involved in UFOs. We have a direct link living through the Major to Bob Wood, and we're going to ask him some information about Bob Wood, some more of what he knows. Last week, we did discuss his issue, his experience, his occurrence with aliens who communicated with him, which I was like a little kid in a candy store. Some of you commented that it was hilarious watching me trying to pick up my jaw off the floor several times. And I agree. It was spectacular for me. Some people just really enjoyed hearing that part of the Major, and we will share some more today. So he's on Robert's phone. I've still got this cold. I'm going to let Robert start the conversation, and we'll take it from here. So take it away, Robert.
Okay, super. And I do hope you feel better soon, Professor. Okay, so today we have Major George Filer, United States Air Force. He served in the Air Force 1957 to 1977. We did do an interview last week. I encourage you to check it out if you didn't see it. We went over a variety of information. I'm not sure really where to begin. Everywhere from working inside the vault at the Air Force Base, that every Air Force base has an underground vault, a very large vault where all classified information comes into, and it stays there in the vault. And the major was fortunate enough to work in the vault. So all top secret information, not necessarily UFOs. We talked about briefly we're having a little earthquake right now in Los Angeles, a little tremor.
Seriously? Yeah.
Seriously, check the computer. We just 104 Los Angeles time.
Wow.
The ground, we're having a little tremor. The lights are shaking. Wow.
On live even. Holy cow. That's awesome.
Live. Yeah. Wow.
Make sure nothing falls on you, Robert.
Yeah. With the tremors, they start off little and then they can escalate pretty fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm always waiting for it to de-escalate.
Yeah. Well, if it does escalate and you have to make a hasty exit, we can pick this back up another time. So
unbelievable.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, it's all good.
I don't know of anybody that this has happened to, so this is cool.
You know what? I take it as a good sign.
Well, we wanted to shake things up. Here we are.
I think we're shaking things up here. Yeah. That'd be amazing if the epicenter is somewhere UFO country like off of Malibu or Palmdale, California, Edwards Air Force Base. It's kind of hard to say, but it felt like it came like 100 miles away. So something to that effect. But it looks like everything is stopped right now. So, okay, let's keep going forward. He had a liaison in the Air Force, Bob Wood. And evidently, Bob Wood is kind of well known in the UFO community, where he was a civilian with the rank of a colonel, but he had the authority to launch Air Force jets to chase UFOs and even shoot them down if necessary. So you know what? So before I talk too much, everybody wants to hear the major. I don't blame you. So Major George, if you could just step in and start pretty much from it, you can kind of start from the beginning if you want, and then we'll just ask questions from there.
Well, thanks for having me. I joined the Air Force through ROTC at Bradley University, and which, by the way, is playing basketball today for the Missouri Valley Championship. But there's over 1,000 students in the Air Force ROTC program, and 20 of us went forward to advanced ROTC between the sophomore and junior year, and I was one of the 3 selected to go forward. And then actually in 1958, we went on active duty and went to flight school. And at the same time, I was always interested in intelligence. And I started taking courses about intelligence. And my first assignment overseas was in Athens, Greece. And that was an interesting assignment for about a year. And then I was transferred to tanker aircraft in England. And in England, we saw a lot of UFOs, put bluntly. More, I think, in England than we have in the United States. And to give you an idea, this MUFON, Visual UFO Organization, has reports of about 800 UFOs a month in the United States. Now, and we feel we're only getting a small number of the actual reports of the UFOs exist. And people don't realize, but they've been around for a long time. I mean, frankly, they talked about frequently in the Bible. They're talked about Sumerian writing. They're talked about, for example, in 1561, there's a battle between the UFOs over Nuremberg, Germany. Been around continuously since then. Well, after World War II, the United States decided that they wanted to get that technology, and they decided that they would start trying to shoot down the UFOs with fighter jets. And people are very surprised to hear this. But for example, in 1952, the Air Force lost 2,274 aircraft, while the Navy lost 2,086. For the next several years, the Navy and the Air Force would experience losses, but for example, in 1954, we had 1,874 crashes of aircraft by the Air Force and 1,900 by the Navy. Now, all of these were not because we were chasing UFOs, but a General Chidlaw told a friend of mine that we lost, on average, in the Air Force, one aircraft a day from UFOs. Now, the interesting thing is if you fly, I'm unaware of UFOs ever attacking our aircraft. But if we attack them, they return the fire, and our jets could go maybe 500-600 miles an hour, and they could actually do circles around it. They had capability far in advance that we had. As a matter of fact, I've clocked it at 100,000 miles an hour.
Oh,
How fast? How fast?
100,000.
100,000 miles an hour.
Oh, can you tell us as much as you can about that? Any kind of information?
Well, this happened to me on satellite photography. Our role, so to speak, we would get satellite photography. The satellite photography would show UFOs coming from space, going down, for example, over the city of Atlanta, making a sharp turn and going to Houston, Texas in just a very short time, a couple of minutes. And we timed the distance that they flew between Atlanta and Houston, and it was 100,000 miles an hour.
Astonishing.
Actually, that they had capabilities far above anything we have. When I was in England, now this is 1961, 62, the Air Force had decided that it was probably not a good idea to send the fighters after them because they didn't come back. And we used to have to go out and look for them, and usually never found them. We don't know where they went, disappeared or crashed or whatever in the my most exciting UFO chase was we have been doing fueling over the North Sea off the coast of England, and Long Control called us and asked us if we would chase a UFO over the Stonehenge. They use similar terms, unidentified flying objects or whatever. And we just finished our refueling mission, so we said, sure. Now we're about 100 miles away. And they said, we'll give you the Queen's clearance, which meant that all the other aircraft in space would be sent out of their way to make sure that we could get a direct flight to the UFO. And as we're descending, we're like 35,000 feet, and we're descending down to 1,000. Our aircraft started shaking. We were going, sounds funny, but we were going too fast, about 20 miles over the red line of the aircraft, and the whole aircraft was shaking. So we had to pull back on our jet engines and slow down a little bit. But even then, we were doing about 450 knots. And about 50 miles away from Stonehenge, which is in southern England, I had the radar on, and I picked up a very large radar return. And the radar return looked like the Fern of Forth Bridge, which is a mile-long bridge in Scotland that we used to fly over on a regular basis. And it gives a nice long return on the radar site. Well, in any case, the UFO that we're after has this very long radar impression that made it look like it was a mile long. Now, whether it really was or was not, I don't know, but the radar return said that the UFO we were chasing was a mile long. Well, when we got about, 20 miles or so from it, we could see what looked like a huge commercial ship sitting above Stonehenge about 1,000 feet or so. And it sounds funny, but it actually looked like a ship at sea. You know, these big commercial ships you see with dozens of lights across it. It was like that, only it was up in the sky. And we got, I don't know, 5 miles or so from it. And, we're watching it on radar and visually. And it's, the sun had already set, so it was almost dark, but we could see the lights on the side of the spaceship. And we're about 5 miles away. It suddenly lit up the whole craft straight up into space.
The whole what?
The whole craft over
The whole craft went straight up into space. Now this thing, I don't know if it was a mile long, but it was at least as big as a very large ship at sea, like an aircraft carrier or something. And it's going up at tremendous speeds into the sky. So we asked London Control if they had any, missile launch from that area, and they said no. That was the UFO that went up into space, which was very.
Did they get that recorded on the radar by any chance? They had to.
Well, the London Control had it on radar, and we had it on radar in our.
So they do have it on radar.
I can't hear him.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Well, I talked to several UFO radar operators, and generally they have them on radar. But they're told to tell the pilots that they do not have a return of the UFO, but they do have it. And their job is to keep the UFOs away from our aircraft, unless one is actually, chasing it.
Okay, how do you keep it away from your aircraft?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll bet that, yeah, I bet the pilots freaked out.
Anytime you're heading away from, say it's directly ahead, they'll have you turn, to the right or 30 degrees off to the left or whatever. Unless you're in pursuit of the UFO, they won't tell you that it's there.
I see. I see. Do they ever explain why they want you to do that? Why do they want you to avoid the UFOs?
Not the radar people didn't know. They were just told that was their job. I think it was to avoid, any mid-air collisions or, working with the UFOs.
And again, this over Stonehenge, what year do you think that was?
1962.
62.
And there's the second part of the story is that weekend at the officers club, they had a big officers meeting and dinner, and the speaker was Prince Philip, the husband of Queen Elizabeth. And he came in and gave a nice speech. He's all dressed up in his uniform of an admiral and medals and all kinds of stuff, But he's very impressive man. And when he got through with his briefing, he said, I'd like to have dessert with the air crew that chased the UFO with the tanker earlier in the week.
Yeah, I'll bet he would.
Prince Philip for like an hour and a half and talked about UFOs. And he's a big UFO believer. Most of the high-ranking officers in the British Air Force are. In any case, in discussion with him, I asked him, why he was interested in UFOs, and he said, "Well, I try to meet all the air crews that have chased UFOs and get their impression of what they saw and so on." And he said, Prince Philip had chased him himself.
Yeah.
And I asked him why he happened to get, interested in UFOs. And he said that he was raised by his uncle, Lord Admiral Mountbatten, who at one time was the head of the Navy in Britain. And his uncle was leading a fleet of ships on the Mediterranean Sea, and the UFOs came in and buzzed them. And thousands of Navy personnel saw the UFOs as they flew in so close and so on. He said, beside that, when he retired, he became the last viceroy of Britain in India. I don't know if people remember, but India was once a British possession. In any case, he was the last British guy in charge, and they had plenty of UFOs in India, and he had apparently seen them up close there. And also on Lord Mountbatten's estate, they had UFOs that landed. And he didn't say that an uncle had seen them, but that a number of trusted people that worked for Lord Mountbatten had seen them and seen them up close and seen the aliens and so on. That the whole British royal family is quite aware of UFOs, and he follows them closely. And reports. And
The UFOs need to visit the British more to meet the royalty.
right, apparently they are interested in the royalty. People don't realize that the UFOs are very curious people flying inside of them, and they show up at all kinds of air shows and fly over our bases and
They weren't attacking our bases when they flew over them, were they?
Pardon?
They weren't attacking
our bases.
They would just fly over out of curiosity. It wasn't hostile, right?
Right. I don't know of any case where the UFOs have been hostile with us. I do know of quite a few cases when the UFOs seem to be fighting other UFOs.
Interesting.
Like there's, you might call them good guys and bad guys up there.
What can you tell us more about that, or when you heard about it, or where it happened?
Well, it happened about 10 years ago in over Cherry Hill, New Jersey, where they were seeing what appears to be fighting one another. There's like streams of light, like laser light going out from them and hitting the other UFOs, which are usually of a different shape, like the discs are fighting the cylinders, and they appear to be from different planets. And there's some kind of a war going on between various alien groups. And we're allegedly, well, you might say, allies, at least one group, because we're continuing to attempt to shoot down some of the UFOs.
How did you find out about Cherry Hill, the Battle of Cherry Hill? How did you find out?
Well, I was called. I was the New Jersey MUFON state director, and people would report it. Usually, the way I wanted it, they reported to MUFON headquarters, and that headquarters would send me the information. I can't believe people would call me directly.
Okay.
So you worked pretty close with MUFON.
NASA scientists call me.
Don't tell us about the scientists. What scientists?
Well, NASA scientist called me one night, and he says, I'm a NASA scientist. We don't believe in UFOs, but I see one outside over the Atlantic Ocean, very close into the shore, and it's very large and so on. And I've had, SR-71 pilots call me, and SR-71 can go, well, not as fast as the UFO, but much faster than the normal fighter or tanker can fly.
Right.
People don't realize that when you're in the UFO business with calls, that you'll get calls almost every day from people seeing UFOs, and now sometimes they're mistaken, but usually it's a real UFO, and they often have photos. Sometimes it's mistaken, I've actually seen a C-141 come out of a cloud, and I thought it was a UFO at first. It's possible to be mistaken, but we figure we're only getting a small portion the actual numbers of sightings each night.
Do you think there's more sightings or less sightings now, Major, of UFOs?
I think there's more.
Do you?
I
Yeah.
don't know if it has to do with the fact that people have, well, like I'm talking here on my cell phone, which has a fairly good camera.
Yeah.
A lot of people are carrying cell phones and also the camera in it. And so they're getting pictures. Now, usually the pictures are not real detailed because the UFOs seem to affect the atmosphere around them. And that in turn affects the picture.
Yeah, that's been an issue. That's been an issue. I know so many people have said, at one point I was saying, man, do I have to go get a video camera and show you how to take a clear video picture? And now I'm backing off of that because it's not as easy as I had supposed. Yeah, that's very interesting. It might be up to them to decide whether to let us have a clear picture or not.
It seems to me if there's hovering, that sometimes you can get a good picture.
Oh.
Uh,
Have you psionically or physically communicated with them while you were a pilot at all? Did you actually have any type of communication, or were you just trying to chase them and keep them away from the bases?
Well, I thought I might have had telegraphic communication. Sounds funny, but I often felt they were saying, "Do not shoot."
Do not what?
Do not shoot.
Shoot. Not in other words,
That's interesting. That's kind of what Corso said too. Interesting. Corso wanted.
We thought that they thought we might have weapons, which a lot of humans do with a lot of military aircraft. But I was flying C-141s and C-130s and tankers that, in any case, did not carry weapons.
Interesting.
But and they had a tendency to, at least in England, to have us chase them rather than the fighters because the fighters didn't come back. And
yeah,
they were shot down by the aliens or tried to go too fast and the airplane fell apart, or or they captured it. People are unaware of the fact that they can capture cars and people and so on.
See, that's something that we just have not been told, or that we know, is how many thousands of our aircrafts were lost by chasing the UFOs, not because they were necessarily shot down either. It wasn't like it was a war as such, but still, this is quite remarkable that there is that much activity and interaction between our Air Force and Navy and the UFO craft. And now you think there are actually more? Do you think there are more interactions that we're just not hearing about? Has it ever slowed down? And do we know what they want?
I think it's, when I say our humans, chasing them for the technology.
Yeah.
If airplanes fast they can go, we'll say it's a couple thousand miles an hour, and they can go 100,000 miles an hour. Obviously, technology is way ahead of ours. I don't know if you were, but they can go through walls. They can speak telegraphically. They can do almost anything they want. Oh, they can become small. UFOs. A great big ship can become the size of a basketball and then go back up into normal size. They can.
So that is so interesting that we have these interactions. We want them for the technology, but the irony might be that the technology is their mental capability. You had mentioned that last week, that they may be flying these crafts with their consciousness, with their minds, not anything
Right.
physical.
Well, we can. I mean, our family drives a Lexus, and you can tell it things to do, and it'll change the station, do a lot of things just by a few words. I'm just saying that we're following behind, and the experts tell us that a lot of our advances, in fact, are coming from back engineering these craft. That we're getting them. They crash, or we shoot them down, or they crash into each other, or whatever happens. And there's a lot more than most people have any idea.
Yeah.
Talk to pilots who fly on the East Coast and the West Coast over the water, and it's not unusual for them to have UFOs following them. Sometimes, like 10 or 15, and buzzing our ships and so on. It's more common than people realize. The pilots will have near collisions, but they can't tell the public, so to speak, they get fired.
That's definitely one way to get their attention, is buzz the warships, for sure. Well, yeah, I can't help but think, traveling at the speed of thought, it's no wonder we can clock them at 100,000 miles an hour. Right now, mentally, I'm on top of Mount Fuji. And that's amazing how fast that would take if my body would go there. How fast that would be, in how many hundreds of thousands of miles an hour. But if they have conquered that, then it may not even be, let me throw this idea by you. It may not even be a craft that you have to guide. If they have learned mental travel with their mind, why couldn't they just simply do it with their body?
It almost seems that the ship is part of them, if that makes sense.
It doesn't, but I understand what you're trying to get to. I've heard that before, or I've read it somewhere, where the ship is an extension of them. Now, these UFO beings, though, they might not be biological. They might be AI also. Someone else is behind the scenes flying these craft and controlling these beings. I've heard speculation that way. Have you heard much about that?
Well, you can go back from it to the creator, so to speak, and who's, at least in my belief, is put us all here, and that at least the Bible says there's two groups, the angels and the anti-angels. And another thing that people don't realize is that a friend of mine, George Ricketts, lived just outside of Astoria, Ohio. and he lived out in the country, and he wasn't a farmer, but everybody around him were farmers. And the farmer's field behind his house was where the UFOs, I use the word landed, it's not, they don't really land, they dive into the ground and go under the ground. And we're pretty sure there's a large cavern under the ground because it was near Lake Erie. And he took hundreds of pictures of the UFOs coming out of the ground or going into the ground. The point is that they have the ability to know. And then if you go out and look at the fields, it looks like a normal field.
Briefly, I just want to say that I had a confidential phone call a couple of months ago right here at Palmdale Air Force Base, and they are taking that extremely serious. They have a lot of video that to document what you just said. But this was, and there's more to the story, but the bottom line is, yeah, they are coming in and out of the earth, and we now have it on high resolution video. I can't stress how good the video is, but I could tell you more off the air later, but it's very serious.
I've heard the same thing about that is some of the occurrence at Skinwalker Ranch, that the UFOs are actually flying right out of the mountain and right back into it. And yet when you video the mountain, it's all solid. So that is quite remarkable. Very interesting.
Yeah, we have that story on, frankly, I'm serious about it. Well, people claim to see the UFO flying right into the mountain. And, aircraft are flying above them and look down and say, oh, that plane's going to crash. It goes right into the mountain. There's no crash. It just opens up part of the mountain and goes in. And they have that in one place we get a lot of reports like that. It was Puerto Rico. We had a lot of reports up in Vermont, North Carolina, any of these.
Well, several of the
going into the water or out of the water. Lake Erie and Pacific Atlantic, there's all kinds of reports of that occurring. That they seem to have underground and underwater civilization, much more than I think the average person has any idea.
Yeah, that would be the ideal place for them to reside anyway, underwater. It's 3/4 of our planet, but several of the abduction accounts describe these beings walking right through their walls. So why couldn't their ships fly right through a supposed solid ground area? That's remarkable. That is this stuff is the stuff of science fiction, and yet here we are. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I used to interview a lot of abductees, and somewhere on the back of commercial ships, and like midnight, looking out the back of the ship, and the UFO would come up, pick them up, and take them underwater, and they would go underwater for a while, and then enter a tunnel, and there would be water in the tunnel, and about halfway through the tunnel, the water would stop, and there would be air, and they would end up in some kind of a cavern. But there wasn't water in the cavern. It was dry, but it was under the ocean. And that's just what said. Turned out to be very well-known engineer. And a lot of people who have these experiences, are afraid to tell the public about them because they'll think that they're crazy. But they'll tell us about them, and the fellow will be, have PhDs and engineering degrees and all this kind of thing, and one interesting thing is the abductions. The average lady who's abducted is very attractive and not bad. The average man who's abducted is quite handsome. That they seem to have a good taste in who they abduct. And they're usually, attractive people tend, I think, to make more money than a lot of others. And so they end up being with good backgrounds and, that every other thing you would trust them. And yet they have this wild story about being abducted, Kyle, and that kind of thing.
Major, what do you think is the purpose of the abductions overall? Why are they happening?
Well, one of the types of aliens, and actually you can see on my website, I have a picture of one, is a gray who's about 4 feet tall. And he looks humanoid, but he doesn't look human. You know what I'm saying? Although that particular group apparently wants to look human. And they, put it bluntly, have sex with us and create a baby. And, women who get pregnant with the baby after like 3 months are taken back on the ship, and the baby's taken from the mother. And messing grows from there on aboard ship or underground. The point is that they're trying to make themselves or their future generations look human. Now, the Nordics look very human. As a matter of fact, they look almost too good. They're very handsome and very beautiful.
Or they might be trying to make us more like them.
Well,
It's kind of a hybrid. Who knows? If their genes help our ability to think telepathically and use our telepathy, that might be what they're trying to. That's fascinating, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about Bob Wood.
Yes. Bob
Who
Wood.
is this Bob Wood? Can we trust Bob Wood, Major? That's the question.
Well, he was kind of neutral on UFOs. I mean, he chased them, and frankly, he would get. Bob Wood was at Scott Air Force Base in Belleville, Illinois, and we had a vault for our communications information came in, and I and 2 other officers worked for Bob Woods, who was there for like 20 years and was a GS-15, which was the highest rank that I know of, civilian working for the Air Force. Well, in any case, he was the UFO officer for the base.
I'm sorry, let me interrupt, Major. At this point, was Bob Wood a retired CIA or NSA?
If he was, he never told us.
Okay. But wouldn't it logically make sense?
Well, no, at Texas Air Command headquarters at Civil Air Force, at the Military Grounds Command, I always had a CIA officer working virtually with their next deaths. Well, sometimes you'd be 2 deaths away, but And
Okay.
he would be the CIA liaison to the headquarters that I was working at, and I don't know why they always picked on me.
You were a likable guy.
One interesting thing is, now, there's thousands of officers, intelligence officers in the Air Force. And I don't know, half of them are pilots, navigators, or whatever. But if the United States was attacked, I had orders to go to Pacific Base underground to reestablish the government. Now which was kind of surprising because I was only a major and I have orders to reestablish the government with the new president or whoever happened to live there. The nuclear attack. The other interesting thing is that, well, I'm the Eastern Director of MUFON. A lieutenant colonel who was retired and was a previous director of MUFON Eastern also had those same orders that I had. In other words, out of all the intelligence officers in the Air Force, we were the only 2 intelligence officers that would be around in the
Yeah.
having the government reform itself.
Yeah. Continuity of government.
Well, the Army probably had the same idea going with some of their high up people too. You might not have known about them. I'll bet every.
Well, the Army, all I know is it was the president and whoever was left over.
Yeah.
The secretaries and myself. Myself only had the orders of myself and the other high-ranking people. I never did figure out why they chose me.
Mm-hmm. Well,
but all through my career, I've had different people treat me.
So was Bob supposed to do that with you? He was your boss, you said at one point.
Right. He was my boss. And he always gave me operational readiness reports of the highest you could make a report. For 4 years, he gave me the highest ratings and have some general sign.
So why was Bob so important in the UFO world?
One of the things that he would do, that he would tell us about, is that he'd say, well, last night I had to go to southern Missouri. There's a report of a UFO in a guy's yard there. So I went to see the fella in the yard and meet his family. And he showed us where the branches have been knocked down by the UFO, and that there's a big circular area in the grass that was no longer there. And he said that's where the UFO landed. And then he said, well, I checked up on that family, and they drink a lot. He says, I think they're just heavy drinkers. He would always come up with a reason why it wasn't a real UFO, but I would argue with them that heck, you've got all the evidence right there. The circle, you can't take a 25-foot circle and take all the grass out of it in the evening, so to speak, when the UFOs are. And you can't knock down those branches way up on the tops of trees that they hadn't been hit. But Bob did like going out in the middle of the night, checking out these stories.
So what, he would send you to check it out?
No, he never says.
Huh.
He always went himself, wherever it was. He'd go long distances. As the Air Force representative.
Did he ever tell you he ran into aliens at all?
No.
No?
No, he never did. It was funny. We're sitting in this vault with, like 20 safes full of top secret information. And he would talk about anything in the safe. What kind of cigar Castro had, or I'm just saying that almost any kind of information that you wanted to talk about. But when it came to UFOs, he was very quiet about it. But people don't realize that UFOs had the highest classification of anything in the government.
Yeah, even higher than Russia.
And only 4-star generals and a few people that they personally picked had access to that information.
Major, do you think the 4-star generals have more UFO information than the president?
It depends somewhat on the president.
That's probably true, huh?
Presidents get what they want to get.
Okay.
Trump and Reagan, and a few presidents like that probably get briefed every morning about UFOs. Matter of fact, I know they did. Other presidents hardly get briefed by intelligence at all because they're not interested.
Okay, interesting. That's very interesting.
In other words, you get what you want if you're that level. Because people, they can say you're fired, and you're fired.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Okay, it's good to know. Okay.
Or you just have your new base up in the Greenland if they don't want to hurt you too much,
So can I ask a kind of a personal question? I got this from one of my viewers. She asked me if I could ask you this, and I told her I would. I can't remember her name, but I thought it was a very good question. With your experience with the aliens and the UFOs, with your military understanding and job of keeping the UFOs away from our installations, etc., has all of this throughout the course of your life, how has it affected your religious and or spiritual kind of thinking and feeling, or has it at all? Do you keep that entirely separate, or what has this done for your spiritual psychology? I guess that's a good way to put it, if that makes sense.
Well, 20 years ago, my brother-in-law died. And he was dying of cancer. And we went to his home and, talked to him about religion and so on. And, well, first of all, my youngster, I was, as a youngster, I sang in the choir and was an acolyte and believed in Jesus and Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it ever hurt my religion that I believe that there's a connection between UFOs and aliens and, you know, creator in the universe. And
Yeah.
one of the main things that the Bible teaches is that if you believe in Jesus and God, that you, when you die, you'll still live, if that makes sense. That your spirit will go to heaven or hell or wherever, but that
Right.
the spirit exists in your life. I've seen evidence that the UFOs are hanging around hospitals, that they seem to know when somebody's dying. I've seen, for example, I went to the house in Ohio to watch the UFOs, and we're listening to the police radio, and we're not far from the Ohio Turnpike. And when there was a accident on the Ohio Turnpike, which looked like it cost the life of somebody, the UFOs would take off and appear to go to the site of the crash.
Oh, interesting. Huh.
I can't say for sure that, you know, they're angels or anti-angels or depending on who they're picking up, but I feel that there's some connection there. And if you
Yeah.
think about it, you know, UFOs aren't new. They've been around for thousands, if not millions of years. That may be an exaggeration, but there's certainly data, if you start looking, that would indicate that we've been visited by aliens, etc., and that some of them have a religious connotation to them. I don't think all are angels or anything. I think some are from different planets and so on. But I think that, as a matter of fact, I've had quite a few abductees tell me that they felt that they were with angels. Whether they right or not, I don't know, but that's what they said.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Different
connection there, that or else they got the contract from them to pick up the spirit when we die. Now, that's a speculation, of course, but
sure. But it's speculation that we enjoy indulging in, trying to learn more about ourselves and our loved ones and the universe. So it's all good as far as I'm concerned.
Figure,
Yeah.
well, why are they really here? I mean,
that's a good question. That's an important one. We've got to. This is why we need disclosure. And if we're not going to get disclosure, then we citizens like Robert, with his fabulous videoing, and me with my podcast and stuff, we are going to figure out what the cockeyed government. So, you know, one way or the other, that's why your stories, that's why your experiences, that's why your knowledge is so important in all of this. You've had experiences I probably never will, which is fabulous.
Yeah, and most, you know, one thing that surprised me is one thing I think is I get a call from a lady who says, I've been abducted. Can I come and see you? Or I go see her. She'll be the best looking woman other than my wife, that I've seen in New Jersey. My wife's very attractive. But and most of them don't seem to be really upset that they're being taken and so on. Once in a while I get somebody that's really upset, but they usually want to know what's going on more than anything. You know, why are they doing this, etc.
I can tell you briefly, Major, I did have that happen. It was a good 10 years ago. Was having lunch right here in Marina Del Rey with my wife at this giant salad bar. I forget the name of it. And this couple walked in. It's hard to say. Maybe they're about 25 years old, him and her. And they were the two most attracted people I think I've ever seen in my life. And they came in and they sat down next to us. And I was baffled. I was just baffled looking at them like, who are you? Where are you from? I was just staring at them. It's just, I almost wanted to talk to them. And even the way they were dressed, very sharp dressers. I don't know if you've noticed that with the aliens you've met, but my wife and I have not seen anyone like that since. They stood out in a crowd, 500 feet away. You could see them standing. I was very baffled by that, and never saw them again after that.
If your listeners see anybody like that, in your own mind, just say, I wonder if those are aliens.
Yeah.
And I've done that, and they look over at me and disappear, basically. Run away, you know, that they don't want, at least the people I met, didn't want me to, you know, talk with them or anything like that.
Right.
They didn't want to let out who they were, if you follow me. Now, these are the people in the public that are working with us and so on. That's another thing I said. In this job, I talk to people that are presidents of companies and claim that, you know, that their companies worth billions of dollars and all that. And they say very openly that they have aliens working for their companies. And they say that there's aliens working for like the Mayo Clinic and for certain medical places like in Israel and so on, that they're in our society more than we realize.
So the movie that Rowdy Roddy Piper made, They Live, might be based on some truth. Interesting. Huh.
They live among us.
They live among
pretty
us.
convinced. I'm very convinced of that. Again, I had a good friend, Glenn Falkenstein, who had godlike ability. So I do believe they live among us. Yeah, at the very least. The very least. Yeah. It's just recognizing. They're not going to tell you who they are.
Right.
You have to figure it out.
Right.
Knowing this, with those two people at the salad bar, I wish I'd telepathically tried to communicate. If I ever get the chance, I will try to telepathically communicate. But they stand out. They stand out very clearly. So Major, what can you tell us your most exciting story at an Air Force base, the biggest commotion that you ever heard about, either at your base or at another base? Does anything come to mind offhand?
Sure. 1978, I was a briefer at 21st Air Force at McGuire Air Force Base. And that 21st Air Force building was a huge concrete building with like walls 2 or 3 feet thick that supposedly could withstand all but a direct nuclear hit. And each morning I would have to go to work like at 4 or 5 o'clock and prepare a briefing. And this one morning I drove on base, and they normally wait for me through because I have identification on my car. But this morning they wanted to see my ID card and all that stuff. And they fill up the gates and said, "Oh, there's something exciting going on at the base." But that's not about all he told me. As I drove on base, over on the runways, I could see a whole bunch of lights in like airplane or something out there. I couldn't see exactly what it was. I could see that there was a lot of commotion in the middle of the night on the runway. So when I got into headquarters, I go into the command post and I'm met by the first sergeant in charge, and he comes up to me and he said, "We have a exciting situation going on that an alien has been found on the runway. And there's a C-141 coming in from Wright Patterson to pick him up." And he says, "Well, I'm much to brief General Staff this morning about that." And I said, "Okay." And I said, "What kind of alien was it? Was it somebody from Mexico or something?" He said, "No, this is an alien from space." I said, "On our base?" He said, "Yes, sir. There's a dead alien on our base." I said, "Well, can I go out and see him?" They said, "No, only a few certain group of people can go out to see him." So anyhow, I called the wing command post, which is below 21st Air Force, to say they know anything about the alien. They said, "Yes, supposedly he's been shot by somebody at Fort Dix, and he ran from Fort Dix to McGuire. There's just a fence between the two. And he got through the fence. When he got to the runway, he died. That the hospital people are out there trying to revive him, but it doesn't look like he's going to live." Well, so then I called the air police and said, "What's going on with it?" And they explained that there was this dead alien. I said, "Well, I'm General Briefer. Can I go out there?" And they said, "No, you're not allowed out there."
Who was allowed out there? Who was allowed?
Were you a major then?
Yes.
So,
see, this is aliens and stuff. I don't think even General was allowed. But what was happening was that a group from Washington, D.C. had found out about the aliens and had come by helicopter from Washington, D.C. and landed there. And the air policeman who found the body was told so many words, "Get out of here, Sonny. You're no longer needed," in a disparaging voice to him. Now, that particular sergeant was transferred immediately to Okinawa, as where almost anybody out there, even the wing commander who knew about it, was transferred. And I was retired, and anybody who knew about the fact that there was an alien was either retired or sent away or to another base, and they would all be going to different bases so that they couldn't talk to each other about it, and sworn to secrecy. Now, that morning, I'm ready to brief the generals about it, and they came up to me and they say, "Don't brief it out loud in the command post. It's too high information. Briefing personally later." So after my briefing is over and the other reverse, I go down to visit him, and the lieutenant colonel commander of the air police is in there, and he comes out and he says, "You don't need to brief the generals that I just did about the alien." So, so the next thing is I go over to the photo lab, which I did almost every day or every other day to get the latest what was going on in the intelligence field with photos that they might have. And the sergeant that I usually work with came up to me and he's got a package. He says, "You ought to see the pictures in here of what I've got," implying it was the aliens. And I start to open the package, and the captain comes up and says, "You can't see that, Major." And I said, "Well, I'm the general briefer. In any case," he said, "I'll see if you can see it or not and let you know." Well, make a long story short, I never saw the pictures.
Huh.
I was told I was told by the air policeman who found it initially that he was what we would call a gray alien.
Huh.
So Major, really simple, 1978 at the 21st McGuire Air Force Base. That's New Jersey, I believe.
Yes, January 18th.
Let me write that down. January 18, 1978. Officially, the Air Force shot a gray alien, and it was on the runway.
It's like we were told it was the Army shot. He had run from the Army base to the Air Force base.
Huh.
Okay, and officially, that's extremely top secret. Nobody knows about this incident.
Well, he said it before in other. You've talked about this before, though, haven't you, Major?
Yes.
Yeah, it's in.
But officially, it's not out there. It's not.
Well, it is out there. several books have mentioned it and so on.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen an article by the major on that. Didn't you put it in your book also? You actually had an interview with a news station on that, if I remember right.
Yeah, yes. I've had, well, I'm on radio a couple times a week, a couple times a month.
Yeah.
I've mentioned it before to other people.
I mean, it's
But matter of fact, I have my own TV station for a TV channel, an hour.
I just want to let people know we are not spilling top secret beans here for the first time on the Backyard Professor Show. It was top secret, but it has been, we're not the first one to breach this, even though it would have been cool if we were, but we're not. But I don't want to get you in trouble.
The other part of this is as a MUFON New Jersey director, I was contacted by a Army soldier who was a medical officer, like a sergeant. In any case, his job, the Army base was designed to train people how to shoot weapons and become soldiers, so to speak, at least at that time. And his job was to go to the ranges, and there's multiple ranges where the people are firing their weapons, and if one explodes or somebody gets shot or an accident occurs, some kind, he would take care of them. And he and a buddy would go around in their ambulance jeep. Well, they claim that they were abducted early that evening and taken aboard a UFO. And they particularly remember what happened aboard the UFO, the fact that they were taken and like put to bed, almost like put to sleep. And something occurred along those lines. But they were very sure they were abducted. And that later in the evening, approximately at midnight, they were brought back, and I don't know if the ambulance they were in was taken. Sometimes vehicles are taken, but anyhow, on next to the fence, on the Fort Dick side, looking across at the McGuire Air Force Base into the runway. And parked there were several UFOs. And there was, according to them, a bunch of people, or aliens, running around the end of the runway, apparently looking for this dead body. But by that time, the air police had come there. You might say corralled him. And there was an alien standing near the fence. Now the alien looked like it was red all over, and it looked like a robot. And they kept on getting the different aliens running around the base, telepathically telling them, please don't shoot, please don't shoot. That apparently aliens can be killed by guns like anybody else.
What were they parked there for? What were they doing?
The aliens were apparently looking for the one who had been shot,
Okay, that's
Maybe
but we supposedly got him first.
were they upset when they found out he had been shot? It had been shot? Do you
Yeah,
know?
the aliens seem to know it.
well, that's not good.
He may have sent a message or something that he was in trouble. In any case, another part of the story, a CIA officer lands with his C-130 about the time all this is going on. And he sees the UFOs and the aliens and texts in to get out of his airplane, and they won't let him depart the aircraft. He has to stay in the aircraft. So he parks and waits so that he can see where all this is going on in the distance. And he watched for several hours of the aliens and the ships, and they're all discs, from what I understand. And the aliens all look roughly like grays. But some of them were robots. And we've heard this story about the robotic ones as well, that they're apparently part of the UFO craft. That they were like out front to take the shots if these guys, medical guys, chose to shoot them. I mean, they had guns, but they, pistols. But they probably could have damaged the robot, but they chose not to try to shoot him. In any case,
did they come to get the body of the alien that was shot? Did they pick that alien up?
no.
We didn't let them have it.
Right. We had
That's pretty gutsy of us.
a group from Washington. I don't know how many there were, but like 15. And you know how they put ropes or tapes around an area, and they had that all well guarded. And I guess the aliens chose that that could have been a firefight. And they chose not to do that.
Crazy.
That's hard to. You're saying there was a potential firefight between our military and the
that
alien?
might have been that if they decided they had to have the body.
Maybe it was just one of their robots. Did you ever find out whether it was an actual biologic or was it a robot that was shot?
Did I find out? No. I think it was a biological, from what I understand.
Okay.
But there were robots.
And I must have missed the reason. I apologize. I've got a cold, so I've been having to go in and out a little bit here. I'm not trying to interrupt you or disrupt you, but why was that alien shot? What was the point? Was he attacking someone, or?
Supposedly he was in what's called a classified area.
Oh.
Where there was a lot of army equipment. And the story that we got is that they don't know why he was there to begin with, but one person thought that these crafts had like escape vehicles in them. and that he had taken this escape vehicle down to the classified area, and this Army police saw him there and told him to stop, and instead the alien ran, and so the policeman shot him.
So see, even aliens are not allowed to see their own craft if it's under top secret. That's fascinating. Yeah.
But it brings up the question why the alien was at the runway, or why it was at
in the first place. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, was his craft forced to the ground? So this sounds like it was a live fluid event. In other words,
well, I don't know some of the. All I have is. Well, I didn't talk to the fellow who shot him personally, but people I know did. Said that he wish he had shot him, but he did shoot him. And then they decided that a whole bunch of soldiers tried to track him, and he ran to McGuire, either through or over the fence or under it or whatever. And apparently lost enough blood and died.
You say the alien lost enough blood to die?
Well, one reason or another he died. I would assume it was blood.
I was going to ask, what color is their blood? Do we know?
I didn't ask that question.
That'd be interesting. Huh.
I would go with blue, a copper base, if I had to guess.
I'm only picking up parts of the story based on what different people are telling me. I wasn't out there firsthand, which makes it more difficult.
Right. But again, it sounds like it was a brand new situation. The ship was forced to the ground. They were trying to deal with it, and the alien decided to make a run. Maybe.
I'm just assuming they're looking for their own. They weren't, from my understanding, being, ready to fight or anything. They were more like searching for the body to take the body back, rather than fighting or anything like that. At least they didn't appear to hurt anybody that I talked to firsthand. They did abduct the two guys, but they didn't feel like they were hurt. They just were like asleep aboard the craft for a while and sat down. And the soldier the airman actually found the body on the runway. He didn't feel threatened. He felt more threatened by the Air Force people coming from Washington than anybody. And he told a lot of the story later on to everybody from his standpoint, searching for the body and so on, and finding it. And this is January 18th. It was very cold. And matter of fact, that morning or shortly thereafter, we had a big snowstorm. And it was difficult to find out any information, frankly.
Yeah, it would be.
Major, it seems like the UFOs were there for a reason. It seems like New Jersey has a lot of interesting things going on. Is there a lot of military bases in that area?
Yes.
what do you think would have attracted them? Do we have
Well,
like a lot of nuclear weapons there?
yes, there's three bases in a row: the Air Force base, the Army base, and the Navy base, all in a row in the middle of New Jersey, taking up thousands of acres. And there's also nuclear weapons stored there, at least at that time. I don't know if they still are.
So do they buzz several of those bases?
Went to Europe, for used in artillery shells and bombs and all the rest of it.
So they would be transferred from New Jersey to Europe.
Nuclear weapons, I don't know if the right word is wear out, but they have to be rejuvenated every so often.
Right.
There's a flow of nuclear weapons back and forth. And some are stored at New Jersey and then taken to bases in the United States where they're worked on.
Okay. That kind of
I
makes...
don't know exactly what they do to them, but and I don't know if you're aware of this, but the aliens are very interested in anything nuclear. One of the things they almost always talk to the abductees about is not having a nuclear war. And,
He's breaking up.
the aliens talk to the abductees about not having a nuclear war. That they're very afraid of nuclear weapons and wars involves the nuclear weapons.
I wish we were more. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, there's evidence that they stopped some of the nuclear weapons and so on. The abductees claim that the aliens tell them that they're doing things to save the planet. That they're very worried about the volcanic situation around the Pacific Rim of the various volcanoes. And they supposedly do things to help save the planet from blowing up or anything. That also that asteroids might hit us and they've cut them off. And not whether all this is true, but this is what we're getting reported, that they do things that we have no knowledge of. And they indicate that their medicine and technology, scientific knowledge is much greater than ours. We're smart compared to their standards, is what they're saying.
The what?
We're not very. Our science and our medicine isn't very good compared to what they have. They're greatly advanced to what we have.
What is your guess? 1,000 years in the future? 2,000? What is your guess?
For what?
Probably 1,000.
About 1,000 years in the future as far as advanced medicine or science.
Oh, they're 1,000 years past us?
Yeah, the major thinks about it. Yeah, very significant.
Well, if we would try to cooperate with them instead of shoot them down, maybe we could help ourselves.
Exactly.
This is why, no offense to you, Major, but we need to get the militarized thinking of the UFOs out and get the medical and the philosophical and get the people involved. There's too much secrecy. I get it to an extent, but they've overdone it.
Yes.
I think so.
I didn't decide that. We probably decided at the presidential level. Just attempt to stick the UFOs down.
Right. So that goes back to the 40s. The president wanted a UFO at any cost, and it just, things got out of control, and it's kind of hard to put the genie back in the bottle now.
Yeah.
And we still want a UFO at any cost, and yet the people want disclosure. So what do you do when two forces like that meet? What do you do?
Yeah.
But the people just have to keep pushing and pushing and speaking louder. We want disclosure. I think that's how.
And exercising our voting rights intelligently.
And we just want the information now. We don't want to wait anymore. It's been 75, 80 years. There's no reason to wait. They have these aliens have access to medical technology we need now.
The thing we hope is that can be spread among the people and not just corporations. That's the downside of this, is the corporations are the one that are taking the technology, for instance. And there could be potentially huge ramifications and disruptions if we really do discover and are able to tap into 0 point energy, which is essentially free energy. That will completely change everything. Man, our stock market will crash. That will realign everything. So we have to, I'm with you. I get it. We do want disclosure. But on the other hand, there's some caution we have to make. If it does disrupt our entire economy and sets it back to zero, that's going to make about 8 billion people really upset.
Right. That's the other side of it too.
But on the other hand, no more bills to pay, because it's not like, okay, I lose my life savings. Would I care if I knew I got my energy free? Not much.
Energy is a factor. I could tell you as a pharmacist, I would settle for advanced technology on how to control allergies, inflammation. That's big.
There you go. That would be a good one. We're going to put you in charge of that. We need you to have a conference with the aliens by next month, please.
I'll do that. I could do that. If we could shut off inflammation and allergies.
Boy, that would solve a lot of issues.
Huge.
Yeah. 90% of our ills.
Essentially, yeah. 90% of illnesses is inflammation.
Yeah, it is. And I'm not even a pharmacist, but my wife does study this stuff a lot, and she kindly shares with me. So I barely know a little bit. So is there any other questions we want to ask the Major, Robert? We're at a minute 40 or an hour and 45 minutes. It's been a delightful conversation. Can you think of any other question you have for the Major?
My gosh. No, maybe
there's a lot of them, but
that's a lot. But maybe on the next interview, I would like to learn more about any commotions, like the commotions at other Air Force bases in the country, Montana, Illinois, Ohio. There has to be other stories like that.
Oh, there are some, yes.
So let me ask you quickly, Major. Have you had any type of interaction with the NHI, the aliens, the beings, since you've retired at all, or has that essentially stopped?
Um, I'm not sure if I have, but I have a website, and each week for 20 some years, once a week, I would write 20 pages, and I would frequently my mind would go blank,
Yeah.
and at night or whatever. Well, my wife would say that tiny UFOs flew in our bedroom and would hover near me, and the next morning I'd have a lot to say in my files. Now, I can only tell you that these UFOs are small light, like a golf ball of light or something that looks like a disc. Maybe as big as a tennis ball would come into my room. But I never, you might say, talked to anybody or really saw anybody. I only even know this. I didn't see these objects. My wife saw them. But I would have, you might say, ideas to write about.
You've got a lot of that on your website, don't you?
I mean,
Yeah.
It's on his
put a
website.
link. Yeah, we'll put a link on it.
There's 20 years of stuff there if you want to look at it.
Yeah, no kidding. That would be invaluable. We are going to go research, pilfer, and steal from you. No, I'm kidding. We're going to let you tell us.
And what I say is that I always try to tell the truth, but I don't know if it always is the truth, because I'm getting information from various people, and you assume they're telling you the truth, but they may not be.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll settle for what you're telling us, Major.
Oh, we love it.
We're thrilled. We really appreciate it. There's
lots of stories about abductees if you want to go into that sometime, and there's they often had to hypnotize people, and then the UFO decided they didn't want people without licenses to hypnotize anybody. But we try not to. We just say, "What happened to you?" and see what they say. And they all were pretty similar stories. But we can go into that in depth sometime if you want.
okay. And then, also, Major, you were on the last week, you mentioned that every Air Force base has a UFO liaison officer.
I don't know if that's true now, but that seems to be true when I was in.
That's a lot of liaison officers for UFOs in the Air Force.
Yes. So my question is, sir, do you hear of the other UFO liaison officers? Do you ever hear from them? Are they ever on the internet?
Not that I know.
Wow. What?
They once they're in that, they agree to a lot of secret stuff that they can't talk about, and they're probably threatened with.
We wouldn't mind the stuff they could talk about. That would be fascinating. Probably not much, huh?
No.
So the Air Force did take measures to make sure that they stayed up on this phenomenon that our government just a few months ago said, really, we have no evidence. And there's not, Elon Musk has ridiculously come out and said, well, there's no aliens at all anywhere. Come on, Elon. get out of Doge and go back to flying your own spaceships, for Pete's sake. That is the stupidest thing. Well, second stupidest thing I've heard in a long time. But I mean, my goodness, come on.
He's obviously knows something.
Of course.
Yeah, just
he thinks he's clever. And
to the secret information, that's the first thing they always say. I don't know anything. They don't exist.
Yeah, well, I'm not impressed.
Now, Bigelow, who also has equivalent to SpaceX, says that there's aliens here for sure.
Yeah, right.
So you got some of the crashed UFOs.
Yeah.
In his buildings.
Well, and I mean, like him or hate him, but Bob Lazar is right in there with it. He said he's actually worked on the craft himself. So there's some people who think he's a complete fraud, and there's other people who say, nope, this guy's the right deal. So I suppose the jury is still out on that, but there's more than just one voice saying that. So, well, and George Knapp has put together enormous amounts of information, him and Jeremy Corbell.
William Tompkins is he passed away, but was a good friend of mine. But he had worked on UFOs or back engineering them for, I don't know, 48, 50 years.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to work much with Steve Greer at all?
Well, I have been on a couple of his shows, and
oh, nice.
He's come to my house and filmed me, and we've gone out to dinner. And
he's another man who's been,
programs that they had in Washington.
Yeah. I think eventually, with enough voices, we're going to get this done. And we wanted to, Robert talked to me about you, and we wanted to kind of get together and make sure you're one of the voices out here saying, hey, this phenomenon is here, and we now know that, and so it's time to move forward with it. And so here we are. We do so appreciate you taking your time. We promised we wouldn't keep you more than 18 hours, and we're approaching that. So I'm kidding. We would love to have you back again if that's okay. We'll see on our timing. We'll see how you're feeling and how you're doing. But if that's okay, we've got a lot more of your magnificent brain and life experiences we'd love to listen to and learn from. So thank you once again, both of you, for being on the show and for sharing your wisdom and knowledge. We will be back with more at the BYP, because we don't do the bunk or the bull. We don't baffle you with bunk poop. We give you the info, and that's where it's at. So thank you much. We're going to head out. You guys have a great evening.